My husband and I were living together in a cozy little apartment when a significant event unfolded in our lives. His grandmother, who had always claimed to possess psychic abilities and communicate with spirits, sadly passed away. Despite her claims, I had never personally witnessed any of her readings due to her declining health, battling both Parkinson's disease and dementia. As someone who tends to be skeptical, I usually rely on tangible evidence and personal experiences to form my beliefs. However, I do acknowledge that there are unexplained phenomena that can occur in this world. Now, my husband has a history of sleepwalking and talking in his sleep. Over time, I had become adept at recognizing the signs when he was in a sleep state. But one peculiar night, around 2 a.m., he abruptly shook me awake, urgency apparent in his voice as he whispered, "Babe, look, wake up." His tone indicated that he wasn't sleep-talking, so I reluctantly mustered the courage to inquire about his sudden disturbance. He pointed towards the darkest corner of our room and, with an unusual sense of delight, uttered, "Look at the white woman." Then, as if nothing had happened, he turned over and peacefully resumed his slumber, leaving me in a state of unease and trepidation. To my dismay, this same incident occurred not just once, but 3 more times. Each time, I found myself too apprehensive to gaze in the direction he had indicated. Instead, my response to his nocturnal encounters evolved into a firm, "Nope, no one is there. No thank you." Interestingly, my husband has no recollection whatsoever of these episodes or the presence he claimed to witness. Nevertheless, life has a way of unfolding in unexpected ways. We now have a son, and on occasion, I catch him giggling while looking at seemingly empty corners, just like his father used to. My husband jokingly attributes this behavior to the enigmatic white woman, whom we assume to be the manifestation of his grandmother's spirit or residual energy. Nonetheless, unannounced guests, even of the spectral variety, do not sit well with me. Growing up, I had always been skeptical about the existence of ghosts and the paranormal. I never believed in things that couldn't be explained by science or reason. However, all of that changed when my boyfriend, Alex, decided to show me something that left me questioning everything I thought I knew. One evening, Alex and I were having a video call. We were casually chatting about various topics, and somehow, the conversation turned to the paranormal. Alex mentioned that he had a doll that was rumored to be haunted and decided to demonstrate it to me. He showed me the doll and placed an EMF meter beside it. To my surprise, the EMF meter started showing some slight spikes here and there. I tried to dismiss it, attributing the spikes to the nearby lamp or his electronic devices. After all, we were on a video call, and there could be electromagnetic interference from various sources. Alex seemed amused by my attempt to rationalize it. He had always been fascinated by the paranormal and enjoyed exploring the unknown. He assured me that he had tested it multiple times, and there were no other sources of electromagnetic interference around. I remained skeptical but couldn't shake off the eerie feeling that lingered in the back of my mind. A few days later, I decided to visit Alex at his place. As I entered his room and sat on the bed, the doll was nowhere in sight. My curiosity got the better of me, and I finally asked, "So, where is the haunted doll you showed me?" Alex looked at me with a sly smile and said, "It's in the closet, but don't worry, I covered it up with some clothes." Relieved that I didn't have to face the doll, I brushed it off and continued our conversation. However, as soon as Alex left the room to fetch some drinks, something peculiar happened. The light bulb next to the door, which had always been off, suddenly turned on by itself. At first, I assumed that Alex had forgotten to switch it off earlier, but as I waited for him to return, the light remained on. Puzzled, I got up and tried to turn it off myself, but the switch was already in the off position. The light refused to go off, and it was clear that something strange was happening. When Alex returned, I asked him if he had switched the light on before, but he looked just as confused as I was. "No, I never turned the light on." "It's been like this for weeks," he said, toggling the switch in vain. As we stood there, the light suddenly started flickering, and then it went off entirely. The room was engulfed in darkness, and an unsettling feeling washed over me. I couldn't explain what had just occurred, and it left me feeling uneasy. That night, I couldn't shake off the strange event. The more I thought about it, the more I started questioning my skepticism. Maybe there was more to the world than what we could see or comprehend with our limited understanding of science. Over the next few days, Alex and I decided to explore the possibility of paranormal activity in his home. We bought more equipment, including motion sensors and voice recorders, hoping to capture any evidence of supernatural occurrences. As we conducted our investigations, strange things began happening. We heard unexplained footsteps and knocking sounds. Doors would open and close on their own, and we even captured some eerie EVPs during our recording sessions. One night, while we were sitting in the living room, we both heard a faint voice calling out for help. It sounded like a little girl crying, but the voice seemed distant and ethereal. Alex and I exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of it. We followed the sound, but it seemed to move around the house, making it impossible to pinpoint its origin. As the weeks went by, the paranormal activity seemed to intensify. We experienced sudden drops in temperature, objects moving on their own, and even witnessed shadowy figures darting past doorways. Despite our initial skepticism, we couldn't deny the mounting evidence that something unusual was happening in Alex's home. As we delved deeper into the mystery, we discovered that the house had a dark history. It had been the site of tragic events, including a family murder-suicide that had occurred years ago. The more we researched, the more we realized that the activity we were witnessing might be connected to the spirits of those who had met tragic fates in the house. The experience was both fascinating and terrifying. We were no longer mere observers, we were active participants in unraveling the mysteries of the paranormal. The skepticism that once defined me had given way to an insatiable curiosity about the unknown. Looking back, that video call with Alex and the haunted doll marked a turning point in my life. It opened my eyes to the possibility that there might be more to this world than what can be explained by science and reason. I had become a believer, not in blind faith, but in the need to question and explore the unexplained. Now, Alex and I continue our investigations into the paranormal. We have become a team of amateur ghost hunters, seeking answers and delving into the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. The journey has been both thrilling and chilling, and I can't help but wonder what other secrets the world holds, waiting for us to uncover. I find myself reflecting on a series of perplexing and unsettling events that have woven their way into the tapestry of my life. As an ordinary individual, I am recounting these occurrences that defy explanation and stir an uneasy blend of curiosity and fear. Each chapter of my story bears the weight of the unexplained, threading through time, space, and the veil that separates our realm from the unknown. The first enigma unfolded during my teenage years, a chapter of my life ripe with curiosity and transition. It was a time of moving, of new beginnings, and of inexplicable occurrences that would forever alter my perception of reality. My family was transitioning to a new apartment, and I chose to spend a solitary night within its walls, captivated by the allure of a basketball game. My bed and television stood as my sole companions in this nearly vacant space. The familiarity of that night unraveled as a family-sized bag of Doritos levitated across the room, a moment that I initially dismissed as a mere anomaly. The weight of the inexplicable pressed upon me, an experience I wrestled with, or perhaps deliberately avoided acknowledging. In this new abode, my interactions with the supernatural remained on the periphery of my senses. Shadows darted at the corners of my vision, and the luminous glow of a fish tank's light inexplicably waned, obstructed by an unseen presence. However, it was an encounter with the unnatural that etched itself into my memory. The moment of lightheadedness thrust me into a realm where whispers spoke of being all around you. The words reverberated through my consciousness, instilling fear and uncertainty. a reminder of the fragility of life's boundaries. As years passed, the fabric of my experiences intertwined with the lives of others, weaving a complex narrative that defied rational explanation. Love's embrace introduced me to a new chapter where shared experiences unveiled the mysterious tapestry that enveloped my life. A haunting voice whispered, "Get out," directly into my ear, resonating with an urgency that transcended the limits of our reality. My companion's reassuring presence bore witness to the audio enigma that only I perceived, a chasm between our senses that underscored the inexplicable nature of my encounters. A revelation, akin to a chilling gust, swept through the corridors of our relationship as my partner divulged her own experience. An unfamiliar language spoke to her in the realm of dreams, a language beyond our earthly comprehension. The boundary between slumber and reality blurred, leaving a trail of unspoken questions that haunted our shared existence. Transitions brought me to new spaces where my encounters with the unknown grew more vivid and unsettling. In the intimacy of night, a shadow figure manifested, hovering above me as I lay in helpless vulnerability. My instinctive reach yielded to its ethereal nature as it retreated beyond the veil of perception. Rest was stolen from me, a casualty of an encounter that defied my comprehension. The boundaries of reality continued to blur, casting me as both a witness and a participant in the inexplicable. Footsteps echoed through the hallways of my solitude, uninvited guests traversing an empty corridor. Shadows elongated and converged, coalescing into the form of a towering figure that defied the confines of our tangible world. My heart raced as I sought an explanation, my quest for rationality outpaced by the enigma that taunted me from the shadows. Years flowed like an undulating river, and new horizons beckoned. A new home marked the beginning of another chapter, yet the familiar tendrils of the supernatural remained entwined with my existence. A restless night bore witness to a phantom presence that defied explanation, as my peripheral vision captured fleeting glimpses of an ethereal being that remained just beyond the threshold of comprehension. A specter dressed in white danced through the hallway, a tableau that awakened primal fears and unsettled my very core. As I stand here, reflecting upon the journey that spans a lifetime, I am reminded that the realm of the supernatural is woven into the very fabric of our existence. The boundary between reality and the unknown is not as distinct as we would like to believe. We are beings straddling the realms of certainty and mystery, our lives intertwined with forces that elude rational explanation. And as I share my story, I invite you to explore the intricacies of the inexplicable, to peel back the layers that conceal the extraordinary within the ordinary. Allow me to provide a quick introduction before delving into the peculiar events that unfolded. Over a weekend, my parents were away to celebrate their wedding anniversary, leaving me at home alone. I'm 19 years old and have a 17-year-old sister, but she had chosen to spend the night at a friend's place, so it was just me and my trusty dog in the house. Earlier in the day, I had taken the initiative to wash my bedsheets and toss them into the dryer. However, when I checked later on, I discovered an unwelcome surprise. The dryer had decided to malfunction, leaving my freshly laundered sheets damp. Naturally, I contacted my parents to inform them of the situation. In the meantime, I embarked on a quest to find alternative bedsheets but came up empty-handed, except for my sister's set that didn't quite fit my bed. Faced with this predicament, I concluded that my parents' bed was the comfiest option. As night fell, I settled into their bed with my loyal canine companion. With the bedroom door slightly ajar to accommodate my dog's potential late-night excursions, I occupied myself with watching YouTube videos while waiting for sleepiness to wash over me. However, an unexpected sensation soon swept over me. I suddenly felt as though I was being watched, a sensation that sent shivers down my spine. Despite the eerie feeling, I took solace in my dog's presence, which curbed my fear a bit. To ward off the unease, I switched on the lamp and attempted to lull myself to sleep, as my phone's battery was on the brink of depletion. Around 2:55 or 2:56 in the early hours, I awoke from my slumber, an uncommon occurrence for me. Casting a glance towards the foot of the bed, I spotted my dog sound asleep, My gaze then shifted towards the partially open bedroom door, where an unusual sight met my eyes. I saw what appeared to be someone kneeling on the floor, supporting themselves by resting against the wall. For nearly a minute, I tried to decipher the baffling sight before me. The figure resembled a person, which triggered a mix of confusion and mild panic within me. To shield myself from this unsettling image, I hid beneath the safety of my blanket and remained in this protective cocoon for a few minutes. Eventually, my courage prevailed, and I mustered the strength to peek out. Astonishingly, the figure had vanished. In the aftermath of this unnerving encounter, sleep eluded me. I managed to drift off around 5 a.m., but my sleep schedule was irreparably disrupted. While I'm uncertain of the motives behind this strange occurrence, I'm inclined to believe that my house isn't haunted. This isolated incident marked the first time anything of the sort had happened, and our family home, constructed in the 1980s, hasn't exhibited any ghostly activity before. The occurrence transpired a few days ago, and thankfully, everyone is back home now. Since then, no further unusual incidents have taken place. I welcome your insights and thoughts on this matter. When I was 13, a time that coincided with the lockdown, I found myself sinking into the depths of chronic depression. It wasn't an extreme case, but the weight of it was undeniable. Life seemed devoid of purpose, and my experiences and relationships were marred by abuse and manipulation. I became ensnared in those kinds of relationships where the need to please the other person took precedence, often at the cost of my own well-being. Eventually, I found myself in a place where the realization dawned that this wasn't healthy. But even in those moments of clarity, the darkness of my thoughts led me to make 2 attempts on my own life that year. In the aftermath of those difficult times, I made a promise to myself. Once I turned 16, I would bid farewell to this world. It was a solemn commitment, born out of desperation and pain, a pledge that seemed to provide a distant glimmer of relief. Time moved forward, and before I knew it, I celebrated my 16th birthday just 2 days ago. The occasion was marked with joy and celebration, in a manner not quite the same as the American Sweet 16, but nevertheless enjoyable. Friends, laughter, and a few drinks formed the tapestry of the day. Amid the festivities, my promise from 3 years ago had faded into obscurity. However, something unexpected happened yesterday. I was engaged in a conversation with my boyfriend when a sudden rush of memories flooded back. The promise, the weight of it, resurfaced in my mind, almost as if it was trying to claw its way back into my consciousness. And then, something even stranger occurred. In the midst of my thoughts, a vivid image formed, my 13-year-old self, standing by my bedroom door, eyes filled with a haunting intensity. This wasn't like the ethereal specters I had encountered before. This was me, the living version of myself. Confusion and disbelief intertwined as I grappled with the paradox of seeing myself, a person who hadn't passed away. I'm no stranger to the unusual, having encountered spirits and heard sounds that didn't belong to our reality. But this was a departure from the familiar. I maintained a peculiar sense of calm, not fear, as I watched my younger self sit on my bed, her presence palpable. Even as she demanded my attention, I wasn't thrown off balance. I knew that somehow I had the power to guide this apparition because, in essence, she was me. This realization gave me a unique control over the situation. Typically, when I encounter spirits and find myself preoccupied or simply uninterested in engaging with them, I mentally ask them to leave me alone. It's a practice that has worked effectively in the past, allowing me to reclaim my mental space. Yet, in this instance, she resisted. The word leave seemed to have no place in her vocabulary, and my efforts to communicate my wishes were consistently redirected. This peculiar interaction stretched on for around 10 minutes, with her eventually departing from my room. Shortly after her exit, my younger brother, who was in the adjacent room, started crying. That was the turning point for me. Despite my internal struggle, my concern for my brothers, whom I held dearer than my own life, compelled me into action. I rushed to my brother's side, comforting him, and the strange presence seemed to dissipate. As I recount this unsettling experience, I'm left with a sense of unease and uncertainty. What does this encounter mean? How does it relate to my past promise? What if the consequences of her presence linger and affect my life in ways I can't predict? These are questions that swirl in my mind, and I'm grappling with a sense of responsibility and bewilderment that only deepens the enigma.